Yo, Donald Trump has been impeached a second time, but why? Why are we holding an impeachment for a president who's already out of office? What is he being impeached for? And what does it all mean? Hang out with me for a little bit and I'll make it make sense. Impeachment is the process of charging a public official with misconduct. It's similar to a criminal trial, but not exactly the same. The biggest differences being A crime doesn't necessarily have to have been committed in order to be impeached, just misconduct or abuse of office. And B, impeachment will remove that official from office and possibly bar them from ever holding office again. Impeachment happens in two parts. Part one is the filing, part two is the trial. Trump was impeached once before. The filing happened like normal, but he was acquitted during the trial, so there were no consequences for his actions. This time around, he's been impeached with the filing, but the Senate trial hasn't actually started yet. If he is acquitted this time, it'll be just like the first time. If he's convicted, there's a chance that he could be barred from ever running for president or any other federal office again. So, how does it work since he's not actually president anymore? Basically, some people have called into question whether or not impeachment is even constitutional. Since he's already left office, can you impeach him? Some people have been calling that idea January immunity, or the idea that a president can do or say anything they want in the last few weeks of their presidency because there's no way to hold them accountable. Today, the Senate had an actual vote about whether or not that was constitutional. They've decided that it is constitutional to impeach a president even after they've left office. What is Trump being impeached for? The articles of impeachment were filed for inciting an insurrection. So incitement is the action of provoking unlawful behavior or urging someone to behave unlawfully. On January 6th, a group of armed domestic terrorists attacked the nation's capital. The full picture still hasn't been released to the public, but it ended with untold property damage, the senators hiding and cowering inside of their offices, 5 dead, including 2 Capitol police officers, and many other officers injured or wounded. This includes lost fingers, gouged out eyes, traumatic brain injuries, and even one officer who was beaten with an American flagpole. So, did Donald Trump provoke his supporters into storming the Capitol? Let's see. It all starts with the election. Even before November, a lot of people suspected Trump would be up to no good. Here's Bernie to explain a little more.
My view is every vote must be counted. For reasons which I don't have the time to get into tonight, you're going to have a situation, I suspect, in states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, other states, where they are going to be receiving huge amounts of mail-in ballots. They're not being able, for bad reasons, to begin processing those ballots until, election day, or maybe when the polls close. On election night, Trump is winning in Michigan, he's winning in Pennsylvania, he's winning in Wisconsin, and he gets on the television, he says, "Thank you, Americans, for re-electing me. It's all over. Have a good day." But then the next day and the day following, all of those mail-in ballots start getting counted, and it turns out that Biden has won those states. At which point Trump says, "See, I told you the whole thing was fraudulent. I told you those mail-in ballots were crooked, and we're not going to leave office."
So it started with him claiming the election was fraudulent. Trump went on Twitter and claimed it. He went on TV and claimed it. His Republican loyalists claimed it. His lawyers had press conferences about it. One of Trump's lawyers was so crazy that she even said that Hugo Chavez, former Venezuelan president and current dead person, was in on the scheme.
It can set and run an algorithm that probably ran all over the country to take a certain percentage of votes from President Trump and flip them to President Biden, which we might never have uncovered had the votes for President Trump not been so overwhelming in so many of these states that it broke the algorithm. The massive influence of communist money through Venezuela, Cuba, and likely China in the interference with our elections here in the United States. The Dominion voting systems, the Smartmatic technology software, and the software that goes in other computerized voting systems here as well, not just Dominion, were created in Venezuela at the direction of Hugo Chavez.
Of course, it was all a lie. They filed over 60 different lawsuits all over the country, and not a single shred of evidence was produced. In public, the Trump team paraded witnesses around that claimed all sorts of fraud. But in the courtroom, when they were under oath, his lawyers denied any of it. Even his Department of Justice said there was no widespread fraud in the 2020 election. Trump's lawyers even tried word tricks and mind games to get judges to go along with their charade. Some judges weren't having it, though.
Federal Judge Diamond asks, "Are your observers in the counting room?" To which the Trump campaign replied in oral argument, "There is a non-zero number of people in the room." To which Judge Diamond responded, "I'm asking you as a member of the bar of this court, are people representing the Donald J. Trump for president, representing the plaintiffs, in that room?" To which the Trump campaign lawyer responded, "Yes," and Diamond said, "I'm sorry, then what's your problem?"
It even got to the point that conservative networks like Fox News had to call BS.
So, Sidney, you feel that you will be able to prove this. Do you have the software in your possession? Do you have the hardware in your possession? How will you prove this, Sidney?
Well, I've got lots of ways to prove it, Maria, but I'm not going to tell on national TV what all we have.
So we invited Sidney Powell on the show. We would have given her the whole hour. We would have given her the entire week, actually, and listened quietly the whole time at rapt attention. That's a big story. But she never sent us any evidence, despite a lot of requests, polite requests, not a page. When we kept pressing, she got angry and told us to stop contacting her.
To this day, none of the proof that they promised has ever materialized. None of it. Obviously, like I said, they were lying. Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, even released calls between him and Donald Trump, where Trump is trying to convince him to find extra votes for him.
All I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. You know what they did, and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense, and you can't let that happen. That's a big risk to you and to Ryan, your lawyer. That's a big risk. So what are we going to do here, folks? I only need 11,000 votes, fellas. I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break. I don't know. Look, Brad, I have to find 12,000 votes.
Let's jump ahead to the day of the attack on the Capitol. On January 6th, Congress met to certify the election results. That's basically a fancy way of saying they put the final stamp of approval on all the different states' elections. Trump chose this day to host a wild protest, in his words, at the Capitol with his supporters, and to get them to protest the election results and convince Congress to throw out the votes and just give Trump a second term. He gave a speech a few blocks away from the Capitol, and then told his supporters to march to the Capitol in order to intimidate and bully Congress by any means necessary to give him a second term.
We're gathered together in the heart of our nation's capital for one very, very basic and simple reason: to save our democracy. Because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved. Our country has had enough. We will not take it anymore. We will stop the steal. We're going to have somebody in there that should not be in there, and our country will be destroyed, and we're not going to stand for that. And we want to be so nice. We want to be so respectful of everybody, including bad people. And we're going to have to fight much harder, because history is going to be made. We're going to see whether or not we have great and courageous leaders, or whether or not we have leaders that should be ashamed of themselves. And we got to get rid of the weak Congress people, the ones that aren't any good. They're ruthless, and it's time that somebody did something about it. Make no mistake, this election was stolen from you, from me, and from the country. We fight. We fight like hell. You want to fight? You better believe you got more. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. Was
it part of a bigger plan? Was it all pre-planned? Well, inside the Capitol, Trump's loyal senators were trying to mess up the election certification by objecting to different states and starting debates, which would prolong the process. A dozen different Trump senators said that they planned to object even before January 6th. Included in those are Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz, two of the most vocal supporters of the insurrection. Here's a clip taken from one of the terrorists that shows them talking about Cruz and Hawley after they've broken into the Capitol.
Ted Cruz's objection to the Arizona.
His objection. He was going to sell us out all along. Really? Look, objection to counting electoral votes of the state of Arizona. Can I get a photo of that? Wait, no, that's that's actually okay. All right, I'm pissed. I'm pissed. He's with us. He's with us.
There's got to be something in here we can fucking use against these scumbags. Whatever.
Cruz, I think Cruz would want us to do this, so yeah, absolutely. I think we're good.
Some are even accused of giving reconnaissance tours to the terrorists. Now, the Capitol had been generally closed to the public since March of 2020 because of COVID. However, some of the Republican senators were seen giving tours to random groups of people the day before the insurrection in parts of the Capitol that weren't normally toured by the public.
Democrat Mikey Sherrill, a combat veteran, accused some of her congressional colleagues of working with the demonstrators.
Those members of Congress who had groups coming through the Capitol that I saw on January 5th, a reconnaissance for the next day, I'm going to see that they're held accountable.
Sherrill said that she has passed on her information to law enforcement.
As far as the mob outside goes, let me show you how prepared they were.
The FBI saying those 2 pipe bombs were planted near the Capitol, that they were planted the day before.
Prosecutors released evidence against protester Lonnie Kaufman, who allegedly had an assault-style rifle, Molotov cocktails, and a target list in his truck near the Capitol. While the roundups continue, the FBI is investigating coordination among attackers. Videos showing people acting together to breach the Capitol and attack police, including this line of men moving up the steps wearing military-style vests and helmets. A large number of weapons and explosives were found around the Capitol last week, and the question that investigators tonight are trying to answer is, were they going to be used as part of some coordinated plot?
To top it all off, once the attack was done, the Capitol is still destroyed, the senators are still hiding and cowering in various rooms and under tables. The president's lawyer was still trying to get them to delay things even further.
This is Rudy Giuliani in a voicemail he left for Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama, one of the president's most stalwart supporters, telling him to do whatever he can to further delay the counting of electoral votes.
Senator Tuberville, or I should say Coach Tuberville, this is Rudy Giuliani, president's lawyer. I'm calling you because I want to discuss with you how they're trying to rush this hearing and how we need you, our Republican friends, to try to just slow it down so we can get these legislatures to get more information to you. And I know they're reconvening at 8 tonight. But the only strategy we can follow is to object to numerous states and raise issues so that we get ourselves into tomorrow, ideally until the end of tomorrow.
Take a Rudy Giuliani, the president's lawyer, after all that, is calling, and he wants the Alabama senator to do whatever he can to pick up the baton from the mob. The mob did its job. It delayed things. Now you use your position as a U.S. senator to stop the peaceful transfer of power and the lawful recognition of the democratically elected president.
At the end of the day, what was Donald Trump's goal? To ignore the results of the election and get himself a second term by any means necessary. What were Trump senators like Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley's goal? To ignore the election and get Trump a second term by any means necessary. And what was that mob of terrorists who attacked the Capitol with weapons, who broke windows and glass, who busted barricades and killed police officers? What was their goal? To ignore the election and give Trump a second term by any means necessary. From the top to the bottom, everybody had the same goal. Donald Trump was the leader of that effort. He told his supporters that that election had been stolen from them. He told them the only way to get it back was to fight. He told them where to go fight. He told them what day to go fight. And ultimately, he's responsible for the attack on our nation's capital. If the Senate decides not to convict, if they decide that it's okay for a president to do anything he wants in the final weeks of his term, the next time this happens, and there will be a next time, somebody's going to take it even further, and the America that we know and love will be ruined forever. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, if you learned a little bit, or you just like hearing me explain stuff and you have anything else you want to explain, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and I'll keep giving you more.